I'm in the big leagues, told her don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly.
The Houston Gamblers have a game this week. That's right, people. It is week 1 of the USFL season, and this week in Memphis, Tennessee, the Houston Gamblers are playing the Michigan Panthers. It is incredibly exciting. It's season 2, the first time we've had a season 2 in spring football in almost 40 years. It's incredibly exciting, and I love that we're playing the team that my brother covers in the network. So that's going to be fun, and the fact that we're going to the game, we're going to be there in the press conference, talking to coaches, talking to players. Cannot wait. Make sure that you are following me at @PocketAces_USFL on Twitter and Instagram. Follow my brother at PodInMyTake1. We're going to be posting pictures. We're going to be posting updates. It's going to be a great time. All right. Now, before we get into the game, let's get into the nitty-gritty of things. So, releases. It's upsetting. We never like to have releases, but it's a part of the game. It's the nature of the beast. So we saw that we brought in a linebacker. We brought in Marcel Spears. That meant that they probably weren't exactly happy with one of the linebackers, 2 of the linebackers they had. That's why we saw Brandon Payer release and now Jordan Young. They're not keeping that many linebackers on the roster because, Chris Wilson, he's running a 4-3, 4-2-5 base defense with some rover kind of safeties in there, which means that there's not as many linebackers on the field all the time. So a little bit expected to see that. Benny LeMay, I had heard earlier that they were thinking of only keeping 3 running backs on the roster. So, behind Mark Thompson, there were 3 guys that all were kind of filling the same kind of role. Maybe TJ Pledger, a little bit more of a scat back type than the other 2. And Benny just missed out, and he's the guy that went. And man, we hope the best for him. Taylor Tappan, I absolutely love Taylor. He's a friend of the show, big D&D player. Love the guy. I loved meeting him down in Memphis a couple of weeks ago. And there was just one too many O-linemen, and everybody kind of knew that. And also the fact that they have, their ace up their sleeve with Christian Sicoli, who's going full defensive line. But in a pinch, he can come in and he can cover for you on the offensive line. So they kind of have a 2-and-1 there, which means they needed 1 less offensive lineman to free up space. And then Joshua Moore, also a friend of the show, receiver out of Texas, UT, University of Texas, a speed merchant, but there's just a lot of talent. And one of the positions that they are by far the deepest, other than defensive back, is wide receiver. So, we hate to see him go, but it makes sense. And then we move on from there. Cole Mazza. This one came as a surprise. To be completely honest, there were no hints or anything at this. Cole seemed to be fitting in. He has a lot of NFL experience. He came from the University of Alabama, went to play for the Chargers. The only reason he wasn't still on the Chargers was an injury, so they brought him in for the Gamblers. Did not see this coming, but, we trusted the process with Coach Bob, and they went out and got Ross Reeder. This was hinted before the signing was official. I couldn't really comment on it, but people have been talking about it, and from everything I've seen, we're in good hands. It's an incredibly important position. A lot of people overlook long snapper, but if you can't get that snap out, you can't get punts, you can't get field goals. I mean, you're leaving points on the field and giving up field position. Incredibly important that we nailed that down. Hopefully Ross has had enough time in the past few days just to get caught up on the playbook. So we're excited about that. But now we are getting to the meat and potatoes, the nitty-gritty of this episode. It's week 1. We have a team to talk about playing against, and I have the 3 keys to beating the Michigan Panthers. All right. Key number 1, blitz, blitz, blitz. The big thing, the huge difference on offense between the Gamblers and the Panthers is that the Panthers quarterbacks are not mobile other than Eric Berrier. Now, when they interviewed Mike Nolan, head coach of the Michigan Panthers, he didn't even bring Eric Berrier up. He said it's between Carson Strong and Josh Love. If I was a betting man, I'd say it's Josh Love. Now, these guys are not mobile quarterbacks, which means you got to get pressure on them. In a spring league, the hardest thing to bring together on week 1, the offensive line. What is one of our best things? If we're carrying over from last season, we have a new defensive coordinator, a lot of new faces on defense. But if we're blitzing, we can get those quarterbacks on the ground. We can get these non-mobile Michigan quarterbacks. We can get to them, get in their head, and we're going to see some mess-ups. We're going to see some interceptions. I think getting to the quarterback is the number 1 priority. We saw it in the 3-letter league. That Houston team came out week 1, had 6 sacks. It was a blowout. I think we could do the same thing this weekend. Key number 2, 1 read and run. This is incredibly important. Week 1, like I said, literally 5 seconds ago, the hardest thing to do is offensive line, which means your quarterbacks cannot stand back there. The nice part about the Gamblers quarterback room is they can all run. They're all pretty good throwers, but they are great runners. So have just a quick passing game, some screens, some slants, just one read. And if it's not there, you run or you drop the ball off to your checkdowns. This is incredibly important. Week 1, you want to make sure that you're not getting used to sitting in the pocket, getting sacked. So mobile quarterbacks, I have the 2 here, Kenji Bahar, Montel Cozart. I didn't get as many pictures of Terry Wilson because he wasn't at the scrimmage, but we have running quarterbacks. We need to use the running quarterbacks. And from what I've heard, I think they're going to get used a lot in the running game, which is fantastic. Now, key number 3, tight special teams. We got our man Vogeltron, Nick Vogel on here. He's like literally the most consistent part of this team. I'm not worried about the field goals, knock on wood. What I am worried about is that a lot of the one-score games last season were decided because of a special teams play, because we got a punt blocked, because we muffed a field goal, because we blocked a field goal, we're taking it back and fumbled it and gave it up, and then we didn't have the ball in the entire third quarter. We need to make sure that special teams are tight. We have Coach Ray Richleski. He was an offense or special teams coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts the last time they were in the Super Bowl. He's tightening it up. I know for a fact that he's going hard on them. He's harping on them that special teams are important. And especially in a league where, like 90% of the games were decided by one score last year, messing up on a special teams play cannot happen. So if we can do those things, if we can blitz, if we can run, and if we have special teams, then we will be good. I truly believe that if we can do that, we can win. From what I've seen, the Houston Gamblers were by far the most disciplined team in the scrimmages. If they just carry that in, just being disciplined and not making dumb mistakes will be a big, big, big benefactor in week 1 where teams are going to be sloppy. Now, players to watch. There's so many new names on the Houston Gamblers, and I wanted to give you some players that you should definitely be watching in week 1 because they haven't really been talked about unless you've been paying really close attention to the social medias. And they're just guys that I think are going to be instrumental in their parts of the game. Number 1, players to watch. Number 1, Keke Chisholm, wide receiver. He started at D2, moved up into the SEC with Missouri. This guy, Coach Bob Morris literally described him. He was just half a step slow to be an NFL receiver. He has everything else you want. Literally the picture that's here for him jumping up and catching the ball. He was mossing a dude in the corner of the end zone. He's tall, 6'4". He's got, for spring league, great speed. He could be the difference. He could be the Isaiah Zuber this year, the red zone threat, who's just a little bit taller. And I think that he could be really an X factor when you're talking about deep balls. Number 2, on the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned earlier, we're doing a 4-3, 4-2-5 based defense where it's less linebacker, much more using players in multiple positions. One of the main players that saw a lot of time in the scrimmage, and I think is going to see a lot of time in week 1, is Donald Rutledge. He is a safety, nickel, outside linebacker, kind of a rover position. That's literally what he described himself in the CFL as. This guy is going to be used to disguise coverages, to disguise blitzes. You could see him doing a lot of things and putting up stats in a lot of weird places that usually safeties don't. So see him used as kind of a Harrison Smith type, but better used in the slot. He's a good guy. Also, incredibly fun dude. Look at these pictures from Media Day. He's a blast. And number 3, Justin Hall. Justin Hall out of Ball State. He's a traditional slot receiver. Now, this is something that we did not have in season 1. In season 1, we had good receivers, but they were all kind of the same type of receiver. We didn't have a specific deep threat like Keke Chisholm, and we didn't have a specific slot receiver like Justin Hall. Justin Hall is also starting on kickoff and punt return as a returner. So you're going to see him on special teams, but also, especially in week 1, when you're counting on the fast pass game, when you're doing one reads, when you're doing screens, when you're just trying to get your quarterbacks comfortable, players like Justin Hall are incredibly important because then all he has to do is fake a step forward, come back, and it's a wide receiver screen. All he has to do is a jet sweep. All he has to do is a quick slant across the middle from the slot. He's going to be playing a lot. Don't be surprised if you see the ball in his hands many, many times. So those are my 3 players to watch: Keke Chisholm, Donald Rutledge, and my boy Justin Hall. Now, who knows? We could see somebody that I haven't mentioned on a show blow up. That's the fun part about these spring leagues. But I think that these players definitely have the advantage. They definitely have the je ne sais quoi that I think that they could really be star players. We could see them going for special teams player of the week, for defensive player of the week, for offensive player of the week. Another person to watch, Tim Bonner, star of Last Chance U. Be expecting to watch him get at the quarterback, and Raheem Bingham. And then make sure in the middle of that defense, Kalen Tolson out of Illinois, that you are watching that man. He moves incredibly fast for someone who's 235 pounds. That guy is a playmaker, and expect to see it. All right, make sure you like and subscribe. Get automatically entered into our 1,000 subscriber giveaway to get a signed USFL MVP Cavante Turpin Cowboys jersey. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Go Gamblers, beat Panthers.
I'm in the big leagues, so they don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh. Send it through quick.